Hey guys, Joe here with ECRM at our Innovative Tech program in Chicago, and I'm here with Mark Evans from the Sasha Group. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
So Mark gave a great presentation here on marketing for 2020 and beyond, and we're going to talk about some of the takeaways from that presentation, but in the context of founder-led brands who have a limited budget to work with, and we're going to give some overview of different themes that they should be addressing, and as well as get into some of the practical in the dirt stuff. So I guess to start off, can you talk a little bit about some of the principles that around marketing? You talked about human-centered approach. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really key to not overcomplicate marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I think too oftentimes we do. It's about boiling it down to some pretty basic elements. And so it's really understanding who you are as a brand, understanding your audience, and understanding kind of the context of what's going on in culture. So, being able to first kind of take a human-centric approach to it, understand what's the best way to be able to connect with audiences, being able to understand languages, understand kind of what's going on in their world, and be able to do it in something that's not kind of tone deaf. Being able to really understand kind of a culture of what's going on, whether it's trends, whether, things going on in the news, but being aware of what their world looks like and having empathy for what's going on or what sort of experiences they're going through. So very fundamental, basic things that, we often, I think, know as human beings, but often forget as marketers.
Gotcha. So like now in the context of coronavirus, obviously you don't want to, take advantage of that to boost your exposure. But if you have something that's relevant in the context, if you have a healthcare products or something that's relevant, you can, now's the time to kind of focus on.
Yeah, certainly.
Gotcha. And also human-centered, I mean, we're all people when it comes down to it. We're doing business with people, not companies. And I think that's something that a lot of people get torn between. It's like, okay, well, we got a company account and we got my account, and which one should I use? And I think it should be both, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, certainly you have, the brand being able to kind of put out and tell that story. But I think as whether employees or people that just really identify with a brand, being able to put out the lens of their story about that brand, and being able to say why something's important to them that a brand or company is doing, or why they love, a product. That's when you look at like really strong brands, they have really strong communities, and it's because they've been able to connect with them and be able to bring to life their story through their own lens.
And if it's a founder-led brand with an interesting origin story, I mean, they should be putting
holy
that
grail.
out. Yeah. So, all right, so now we're going to get into some practical things on how to get this done. And there's a lot of, one reason that I love having the Sasha Group speak is that their customers are our customers. They work with a lot of emerging brands just like we do, so they know how to speak their language. And one thing that I'm seeing a lot of with our customers is, oh, well, you know what, I'm so busy, and it's hard to make time to get in the content game. And I think they don't realize how much content assets they actually have within themselves and their organization. So are you seeing a lot of that with the brands you work with?
Absolutely. I mean, I think one, they often underestimate what they have within their own disposal. But two, and I think the most important thing is make time.
Yep.
Make time to do this. It's important. It's really important. I think being able to, one, understand what you have, and then be able to start getting out and pushing that content out and really being able to see how the market reacts. I think oftentimes we're too hard on our own selves subjectively. When you put content out there, let the data decide of what's working and what's not working. Really start being able to feel out where your brand can play and where it can't play. And then being able to start kind of double downing in areas where you're successful, and potentially continue to test and understand of new territories to be able to go after. But it really is making the time to be able to do it. It's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight. It's about this long game of repetition and being able to build a cadence in order for you to be able to establish a brand, establish a following, and connecting with your audiences.
One thing I recommended to a couple of brands is scheduling their content the way they would schedule a meeting.
I love it.
It's part of your business development efforts. So 1 hour a day, if you have 1 hour a week, still 1 hour consistent, and just put it on the schedule as if it was a sales call. and then just get it done. And, you know, the other thing, when it comes to just getting it done, a lot of people worry. I mean, sure, you want quality content, but I think they mistake quality for being like Hollywood broadcast quality versus delivering value, and that holds them back. So, you know, I think done is better than perfect, if perfect means, you know, they're going to be working on it forever. So one example I give is, okay, rather than taking 30 days to make that one perfect video, do one video a day and improve each one, and then by the time you get to number 30, it'll be just as good, but you'll have 29 others floating around.
And the crazy thing is, think about how many opportunities you've missed out on.
Yeah.
Over the fact that you haven't put anything into market over that time period. You know, you never know. I mean, the world's a really interesting place, and you never know. And I think being able to get content out there, being able to, you know, the insights or tidbits that come about from, you know, people reacting to content or things going down a different way than you planned. You know, staying out of the market is like sitting on the bench.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
like you can't go out there and score if you're sitting on the bench. And
Nope.
so it's imperative to be able to get content out there, get those reps. And the thing is too, even with like founder level, you know, I often say to them, it's like, just go out and even comment on posts, whether it's an influencer's post or someone within your community. Just being able to get your name and identity out there. Like, it's not even about producing content, just being able to get out there, and to your point, bringing some value to a community and being seen as a thought leader and someone who understands a certain discipline.
That's a great point. They don't think of commenting on somebody else's post as content, but it really is. It really is, and it has the same effect. It's getting you out there. It's, you know, I always see that, you know, whenever I'm commenting on other people's content, I'll get a lot more reactions. I'll get more followers coming in from that.
Absolutely.
And again, it takes time, but you know what? You're lying in bed before you go to sleep. Just go on there for, you know, I use my downtime, and then I'll just go but besides, the other thing is, and Gary talks about this all the time, I learned so much from reading other people's comments, and there's a gold mine in there. You just have to take the time and do it. But it's no different than if you're here at a networking function. You're at a dinner, you bounce from one group to another, you have conversations.
Yeah.
Same thing, but it's online. So now we'll get, you know, as far as the content itself, now here at ECRM, we don't have a big, you know, content budget. I don't have any budget. It's just me. I have to put all these things together, and sure, we have help from the marketing team, but, you know, we're very limited in our resources, but, you know, we've managed to find ways of band-aiding stuff together, and a lot of that has come from, you know, following you guys and Gary V's content and his advice on how to do this. So talk about the principle of hero content, because that's what we use that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you talk to someone and talking about creating content, it's a very daunting task. And they're like, I don't have time for this. The big thing is that you often think about, oh, I need to create new ideas every day. It's not necessarily the case. It's about being able to understand, you know, other opportunities or events where you can be able to capture something that's ideally a long form piece of content, and that could be anything from 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes long, and then being able to publish that piece of long form content on like a YouTube, but then also look at like, how can we be able to edit it down, you know, a bunch of segments from it that can be able to live on Instagram or Facebook, and then, you know, furthermore, other, you know, memes, GIFs, you know, even taking that video and turning it into an audio file. But all of a sudden, you have this whole quiver of assets from one simple, you know, piece of content, and that allows you to be able to have, you know, content you can use throughout a certain time period, but also revisit. And that's one of the big things. Also, is like, people build all this content and they feel like once they put it out once, it's done. And it's like, no, my friend, majority of people probably have not seen this unless you're spending extraordinary marketing, you know, media budgets. Most people haven't seen it. So you can be able to revisit a lot of this content, and more importantly, revisit the content that's done well for you, and not walk away from it. And you start really being able to build the stockpile of assets, so that you're not continually always having to, you know, create new stuff. You can be able to take insight from what really worked well and be able to edit it differently, or be able to actually then go down the path of creating something new for your audience based upon that type of idea.
And to that point, some people think they worry about overposting content. And what I tell them is it's impossible to overpost because one, the algorithms favor the viewer, not the poster. So they're only going to get a fraction of what you send. And the people who like your content and engage with it, they're going to see more of it, which is a good thing. And then the people who don't are going to see less of it. And because the algorithms want to keep the viewer on there, and they're not going to put crap in front of them if they don't want to see it. So I always tell them, keep posting. Over time, the people who want to see it are the ones who are going to see it.
Well, it's like, how do you get to top of feed? So when you open up that app and being able to have, your post be top of feed, that comes back to just being able to take a lot of swings of that bat again and being able to have content out there and being able to hopefully have one or two that hit, if you're thinking about an organic environment versus a paid environment.
And to give you an example, a real life example, of what Mark was just talking about, here at ECRM, what we do is our hero content, our pillar content, are the video interviews like I'm doing right now. So, actually, we'll use this as an example. So I'm interviewing Mark, and I'm gonna take the full video, post it on LinkedIn, post it on YouTube. I'm gonna pull some diamonds from his conversation.
There's gonna be a lot of these.
Yes, little snippets, and then they're gonna go on Instagram and on Twitter. And some of our guys, some of our marketing team will take some screenshots and maybe put some quotes and again post that around. So already it's almost a dozen or more pieces of content. Then when I get back from this program and I'm home, I'll take his video and some other videos that I've done, interviews I've done, transcribe them, look at the text and turn that into a blog post or two, which again is going to be shared with links to all of the other, so it's just from this one thing, we're getting a ton of content, and that's something that anybody can do.
Absolutely.
And I'm only using you can't see it, but I'm using my iPhone with a condenser mic. That's it. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to rip the audio from this and put it on our podcast platform, which again, I'm using free tools. I'm using a video converter I found on the App Store and the Anchor app, and there's my podcast. And we already have 35 up there, and we just launched it a month and a half ago. So there's no excuses for anybody that says, well, I can't get into the content game. The only thing they need is time. Mm-hmm. So any final recommendations or takeaways that you'd like to leave everybody with?
I think it's important, to understand where your audience is spending time. Mm-hmm. So really being able, there's a tremendous amount of digital platforms out there, being able to understand where your audience is spending time, be able to understand what sort of those, out of those platforms, what are the best ones for you to be able to connect with those audiences, to really move against your objectives, and the fantastic thing is, we live in a very measurable world now, so you can be able to really see effectiveness, but really understanding where they are, understanding what sort of platforms you can be able to connect with them, and then being able to start kind of building that brand and being able to test ways to be able to connect with them and continuing refining and maintaining a positive attitude throughout the whole time period.
And it's a long-term game too.
Exactly, yeah. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's certainly something like you can't get dissuaded when it's a week has gone by and you're only getting 3 likes on a post, or something like that. It's the long term of being able to build up those experiences and being able to hopefully connect with audiences and being able to tell your story will have impact. It will kind of drive your business forward, but it really comes back down to that commitment level. And
it's something we're experiencing ourselves. We're seeing, like last week or 2 weeks ago, I was in Vegas and I have all these people coming up to me to say hello, thanking us for our content. And when I go to connect with them, they're not even first degree connections on LinkedIn. So the stuff's floating around, it bounces around, but it's because we've been doing it consistently for the past couple of years. Yep. And over time it builds up, not only you're delivering the value, but that trust, because they're seeing us consistently. So remember, it's a long-term game, and just be consistent, make the time, and it will, use the feedback that you're getting from the market itself to determine which content works, which doesn't. So again, thank you for your insights. Sasha Group, SashaGroup.com, or is it the Sasha Group?
TheSashaGroup.com.
TheSashaGroup.com, and thanks again for everything.
Thank you.